Hello, my name is Joshua James Jenkins, otherwise known as Triple J, or as I'm referred to on my YouTube channel, being the name of the YouTube channel, Josh times 3. I am here today representing the Rasslin and Logic podcast. I am here alone. I am doing this solo, and I will be covering my review, if you want to call it that, of the most recent wrestling event that occurred, being NXT TakeOver in your house for the year 2021. And I don't really have much to say, so this might be a quick review here for me, but I don't know. Time will tell as we go along here. Of course, now I just want to point this out, that I'm not intrigued by the direction that they're heading in, or the direction that they've been in over the past year. I don't like what NXT has become, because NXT was at its best when it was a developmental system, when it was a developmental program. That is when it was at its absolute best. Its prime years were from 2014 to 2018 at the latest. Those 4 years there were absolutely phenomenal. It wasn't all good, admittedly, but it was a heck of a lot better than what they're producing these days, especially over the past year, if not the past 2 years, for that matter. Because NXT has become less and less of a developmental brand, because it's become more and more of a third brand, akin to what Raw and SmackDown basically already is. And I, for one, don't like that. But that's me. There are others out there that might like that for what it is, but I'm not on that side of where I stand about this. NXT to me will always be, and always should be, a developmental system, which it clearly hasn't been for quite a long time now. Why do I say this? Because it clearly hasn't. Because it's been focusing more on stars from outside the company than developing from within. Now, I don't know if that's factually correct here, but from what I gather, from what I've tuned in for over the past 2 years, is basically seeming to be more that than anything else. And also, I don't like that they're not even... Look, the biggest issue I have is that it's not a developmental system, because when they do eventually move up to either Raw or SmackDown, everything that they built up in NXT, with their character, their entrances, their moveset, their gimmick, their overall presentation, right, their theme song, basically anything that they had in NXT, anything that they built up for themselves to be prime and to be ready to be on Raw and SmackDown, gets changed mostly completely for when they do arrive onto Raw or SmackDown. Basically anything that they established on NXT, to set up for themselves, ready to move over to Raw or SmackDown, gets made redundant and pointless because they come up to Raw and SmackDown and they basically restart the building up process that they spent time in NXT doing for the past however long that they were down there for. What is the point of NXT in that case? Like, why even still have it? NXT is supposed to be the building ground, right? It's supposed to be the startup for your career in WWE. And yet it gets treated as the complete opposite of that. Now, I'm not saying that NXT hasn't developed, any new characters, because they have. They've developed a lot. But my point is, there's no continuation from NXT to Raw and SmackDown. Well, there is some, but there's barely much there to really call it much of a continuation. Because most of the time they get changed to be completely new characters that they never had down in NXT. It's ridiculous. And I don't like it. I don't support that way of progress, because it's not progress. It's running backwards. That's what it is. It's basically learning to run backwards instead of forwards, and I don't like that. To me, I think that's bad business. The entire purpose of NXT is to basically create future stars of the company, right? Future stars for Raw and SmackDown. Just for them to get changed completely for when they do end up on Raw and SmackDown. It's ridiculous. So when I say NXT isn't a developmental system anymore, it's clearly not. Because it doesn't matter how or who or why they get developed down in NXT, because they'll just have to restart all over again anyway on Raw and SmackDown. So what's the point? So yeah, NXT to me, I have zero investment in. Which is sad, because I used to have 100% investment in. It used to be my favourite wrestling program in the entire world of professional wrestling. When I say professional wrestling, but it's really not. But I'll get into that another time. Anyway, NXT TakeOver in Your House 2021. Yeah, this was a major disappointment, especially in regards to the in-ring wrestling aspect of it. Like the rules. And also the style of the wrestling. Like, wrestling has evolved over time to incorporate a lot more high-flying maneuvers, such as dives and flips and all these acrobatic all these acrobatic abilities, right? that is what wrestling has evolved into becoming in the year 2021. That is just how the landscape of wrestling is these days. You got to do all these flips and dives and yeah, look, most of the time as well, they don't even sell the moves. They don't even act like they're hurt or act like they've just been hit with a devastating maneuver. They kick out of finishers like they're just regular moves. They look moves that are basically match-ending moves. Are basically moves that they kick out of like halfway through the match. It's ridiculous. They basically treat it like it's a performance art, like they're at a royal variety show here in the UK for the Queen. They're doing all these stage acting, you know, and it's just not believable. The in-ring wrestling has become less and less believable for me to invest in as the years have gone by, and now this is impacting my viewing of NXT. The lack of selling, the lack of psychological storytelling, it's disappointing. It's making me not want to watch these programs. Like, if you're going to hit a hurricane followed by a dropkick through the ropes, right, and then followed by a corkscrew moonsault or whatever, like over the top rope, and then you go back in the ring and you hit a Canadian destroyer, which in other words is a flipping pile driver, just to kick out at 2, and then you immediately get up to do a whatever. Like, it's most of the sequences with how the match flows together, it doesn't make sense to me these days. It hasn't made sense to me over the past few years, to be honest. Especially the rules, the countouts, the disqualifications, the tags with the tag rope, and so on and so forth. They don't get followed properly. They basically get ignored most of the time. And I'm supposed to believe in what they're doing in the ring? I'm supposed to follow along with the match? No, that's not how that works. That's not how logic works. And that is not how I'm going to invest into the product at the end of the day, because I'm not. Anyway, I think I'm rambling on here. Okay, for the actual match card here for NXT TakeOver in Your House 2021, Bronson Reed and MSK, who I think are called the must-see kids, and they are kids at that, Jesus Christ. They teamed up to defend both the NXT North American Championship and the NXT Tag Team Championship against Legado del Fantasma. I did not care for this match. And also, they didn't even follow the rules of the match properly, so the logic to me is a 0 out of 10. My investment in this match based on the actual in-ring, forget the rules for a moment here, okay? the actual in-ring, the actual moves being hit and performed in the match. I wasn't invested in mostly 90% of it, from start to finish, from bell to bell. There was barely any selling. They were going over the flipping top with all these flips and dives and all this stuff to seem cool, to pop the crowd. They gotta calm that nonsense down. They gotta do less of it, because the less they do and the more rare these flips and dives become, the more special they are. And the more worthy the pop of the crowd that you're looking for becomes in the process. And also, I don't like when basically everyone does a flip and dive these days. I mean, Bronson Reed himself did a dive through the ropes. And to me, it doesn't make sense for, and I'm going to say this respectfully, for a guy his size to be doing those types of moves that are typically done by wrestlers who are referred to as cruiserweights or light heavyweights. If anybody is going to do those moves, then what's the point in doing them? If you're doing them to pop the crowd, then you're failing to get that proper response, especially from me. Now, yes, those in the actual attendance there, they did pop for it, but they'll pop for a balloon if it was set off in front of them. Because the audience, the audience as well, like the audience itself has evolved to become more ignorant these days. They have become more self-aware, and in turn they've become more stupid. It seems that they'll just do it. It just seems that they'll cheer and boo and chant for absolutely anything without reason. It just boggles my mind, it does. Anyway, this match ended with Bronson Reed and MSK retaining both the NXT North American Championship and the NXT Tag Team Championships themselves. So congrats to them, even though I don't give a single damn about it. And please use the tag rope to legitimize each and every single tag being made in a tag match. Otherwise, what's the point of having the tag match itself? If you don't use the tag rope, then there is no legitimate tag being made, therefore meaning it's basically a no contest from that point forward, because the match basically comes to an end. Or at least from my standpoint it does anyway, because logic dictates that it does. And then we had Xia versus Mercedes Martinez. I didn't care for this. And also the ending, right, when that Chinese samurai person stood up and choked Mercedes out. That was the most ridiculous thing I've seen in a long ass while. You expect me to believe that Mercedes is just going to stand there, not defend herself, and just allow herself to be choked and then tossed aside? Are you kidding me? What a load of nonsense. And you expect me to buy in to what they're doing. No. Actually, this is making me not want to watch the program ever again. It's like what Alexa Bliss is doing on Raw, right? With these supernatural abilities. It's making me not want to watch Raw ever again. It's nonsense. It's off-putting. It's the entertainment side of wrestling that I don't particularly respect. If you think differently, then that's on you, but this is how I see it. What else? Oh yeah, the $1 Million Championship made its return, and it's now a championship that is being defended all over again after all these years of it being retired. LA Knight defeated Cameron Grimes to become the new $1 Million champion, and this match was a match I didn't care for. I thought it was silly. I thought it was over the top. I couldn't invest, and yet again I'm using that wording. Investment. Which is something I don't have at all for this match. Am I excited to see the return of the North American, I'm mixing the championships up here, I do apologise. Am I excited to see the return of the $1 Million Championship? Not exactly, no, because I don't really care. Yes, it's surprising. But is it something I'm going to care for in the long term? Not really, no. Look, I understand that it fits their characters. I understand that this is a championship that basically correlates to what Cameron Grimes is doing as a Dogecoin millionaire, or whatever currency he's a millionaire in, right? And I understand that it fits LA Knight's character as well. I understand all that. But look, this is a championship that only really fits certain people and only belongs with certain people. So, but look, it's more of a prop to me than a championship. It's more of a piece of attire than it is an actual championship to be defended against absolutely anyone. But that's me, that's the way I see it. Yeah, and also this match from the in-ring perspective, I didn't invest in. That's the only word I can think of. Cameron Grimes and LA Knight, it didn't seem like they were understanding what match type that they were in. And I know you're questioning, well, why are you saying that, Josh? Because throughout most of the match itself, they were going about it like it was just a normal, regular match. It didn't seem like they wanted to climb the ladder, so to speak. But then again, I wasn't really watching it properly because I didn't really care. And also, it was a bit nonsensical at times. Cameron Grimes climbing up the framing of the arena just to dive off instead of trying to climb the ladder. No, that didn't make sense to me. And also, did he need to do that stupid dive for? No. Again, just trying to pop the crowd, right? Trying to seem like a cool moment, just for the sake of having a cool moment. Anyway, LA Knight is the new $1 million champion. I don't care. I just don't care. I don't have investment. And then I turned the program off because I wanted to take a break and then come back to it later. But I never did come back to it later. I ended it right there and then. After the $1 million championship ladder match, I turned it off and I haven't gone back to it since. I haven't seen the NXT Women's Championship match, and I haven't seen the NXT Fatal 5-Way Championship match either. And you know what? I don't have any reason to. I don't have to. And I'm not going to. Because I don't have any investment. I don't like the stories of what they're telling. I don't like the direction. I don't like the in-ring style for the most part. There's barely anything I like about NXT in the current day. And also, most importantly, I don't like that there's nothing to believe in about it. I don't like that I can't believe in them developing any character because it's all for nothing at the end of the day. I can't believe in the way that they wrestle in the ring because it's too much of a nonsensical style to me. Like they'll just do any move to do any move just for the sake of doing any move. I don't believe in NXT as a whole because NXT to me died at least 2 years ago. I don't have any reason to watch it. I don't have any reason to invest in it. I don't have any reason to tune in at the end of the day. And that is disappointing, and that is also quite sad. Because I should be watching it, I should be invested in it, and I should be tuned in to it. But I'm not. And that is that. Yeah, that was NXT TakeOver in Your House 2021 from me, Joshua James Jenkins, and this was my solo review here of the Rasslin and Logic podcast. Quite possibly my last ever solo review of the Rasslin and Logic podcast, because in about, let's just say about 4 weeks from now, I will be starting up a new podcast with my co-host being Renegade Freeze, and the podcast is called Wrestling Against the World, or in short, WATU podcast. That is going to be a podcast that could be weekly or it could be bi-weekly. We'll see how it goes. Time will tell. But yeah, that'll be starting up in the middle of July, or maybe towards the end of July. Please will let me know. Yeah, and then my time of the Rasslin and Logic podcast will be when it will be. It'll just be when it'll be. I'll either be a part of it or I won't. Time will tell. Yeah. Overall, NXT needs to do less flips and dives, because when they do the flips and dives, it'll mean more to the match itself, because currently it means nothing. And yeah, I'm just going to end it here. I've been Josh Jenkins of the Rasslin and Logic podcast and the soon-to-be Wrestling Against the World podcast, and I will see you next week for the next episode of the Rasslin and Logic podcast that I will be doing with Rail Sucker, covering the review of the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. Until then, have a nice day.